Hi, welcome to the live animal feeding. Today I'm Sarilla Young and I am one of the animal care interns here. And we'll be feeding our live snake. This is Victoria, our California king snake. So we're gonna take her out of the cage and put her into a separate cage. So this is so that she doesn't associate her own cage with feeding, so she doesn't strike at us in case we wanna hold her and everything like that. And just a warning, we do feed them live mice. So if you're not comfortable with that, just don't watch. We're gonna see if she'll cooperate and come out for us. Come here. Hey. She's so long. Do-do-do-do. So we have 8 snakes here at our center. This is Victoria, our California king snake. We have 2 king snakes. And then we also have a few other types and stuff like that. Some of them are native to the wetlands. She is, and then others we have which are kind of like invasive and not natural. Like we have a python, which was like left at a parking lot, which is definitely not natural. That's Rogue. So I'm gonna throw in the mice and hopefully we can catch her. It's always so difficult to catch them. So we only have constrictor species at our conservancy. So that means that they're gonna strike and wrap around, oh, well, she missed, but it's okay. See, she wraps her body around. And so this is kind of like constricting them so that they wait until the prey is no longer breathing, and then they start to eat the species whole. And so they start usually from the head, but some of ours will start from other places, but generally they try to start from the head because it's the easiest to swallow it. We have no venomous species here, but you can tell the difference because, well, hopefully you never actually get that close to one, but you can tell from their eyes. The constrictor species have the very round, big eyes, and then the venomous species have more of the slanted eyes, but hopefully you're never close enough to tell. The only venomous species we have here on the wetlands is the rattlesnakes. Generally, you'll hear them before you'll see them. I've never actually encountered one, which I consider a lucky coincidence. I hope I never do, but some snakes like to imitate the venomous rattlesnake. It's so that they can keep predators away, because some of our birds here will actually attack snakes. So you can tell now Victoria is just constricting the mice until she notices it's no longer breathing, and then she'll start to unhinge her jaw. And that's kind of a fun thing to watch because it's just like they open it to almost twice the size of their head.
So we feed our snakes once a week. They can go up to 4 months without eating. And you can see how much bigger the mouse is from her head. So you can imagine that's kind of a pretty big meal. So that will keep her full for about a week. Snakes have a different metabolism from us. They are what we call cold-blooded. It doesn't necessarily mean that their blood is cold. It just means that they get their energy from a different source than their own body. It's also called ectothermic. So ecto means outside and therm, like thermometer, means heat. So they get their heat from outside their body. You can see she's already starting to swallow the mouse, or attempt to.
Yeah, she's starting kind of at the wrong end, but that's Victoria for you. I remember one time she bit her own tail, and that was a very interesting thing to try to separate her from her own tail.
Yeah, so since king snakes in the wild, they actually eat other snakes as well as rodents. So sometimes they confuse their own body for another snake.
But this also means that they're very impressive because they have such a high metabolism that they can actually completely eliminate rattlesnake venom. So they could actually eat rattlesnakes, which are generally bigger or the same size as them. So they're one of the few species that actually can, because rattlesnake venom is very, very effective.
Looks like Victoria's gonna go backwards with this mouse. She's done that a couple times. She's a pretty big snake, so she can usually do it pretty successfully. but it makes for an interesting show.
Yeah, she's wiggling around a lot. Victoria, you could start from the other end.
She's like, no, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat it now.
This is why we're not a rehabilitation center. None of our animals are going back in the wild because they've been too used to having a consistent diet, and some of them are not the smartest. But they're definitely beautiful and stuff.
So she will eat this thing whole, as you can see. They do have teeth, but she uses them just to hold on to her prey when she's constricting them. They don't chew or bite off pieces of their food. And she'll digest the whole thing, the bones, the fur, all the meat. Some animals can't digest bones and fur, like birds, and they can, what we call is regurgitate a pellet, where they throw up the bones and fur and swallow what they can. But Victoria here will be able to digest all of it. Takes a few days to a week, depending on the snake and how hot it is outside, for them to digest the whole mouse.
Victoria kind of recently also went through a molting process. So she kind of went through the shedding skin. First it starts because we can tell with her eyes are glazed over that she's about to shed, because their eyes don't actually have any eyelids. They just have a scale that covers it. So even if it's a really good shed, you could even see the head and everything forming. But generally when they're in that process, it's kind of hard for us to feed them because they're just kind of in pain trying to get rid of their own skin. And then eventually they'll have like their own shedding. And so at our center, we actually have a few different species that go through what we call molting. And so we have our lobsters, we have our crustaceans, and then our snakes. And then if you come to our center, you can come and touch some of the molts itself.
So it looks like she's all finished up.
Sometimes she's extra hungry.
Yeah, sometimes we give her 2 mice, especially when it's hot like this. So we'll probably feed her more often than in a week. But you can tell she's still a little bit agitated and looking for more food. But that will conclude our